Hello, Home Slices. It's Kara with Home Slice Adulting coming to you with my review for season 2 of Netflix's The Circle. Okay, thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'm going to let you know off top if you have not seen The Circle season 2. This video will be full of spoilers, but we're just going to go ahead and get into it. Okay, so let's start off by saying that I enjoyed The Circle. Okay, I watched the first season just a little while ago, a few weeks back, and I was super into it. I ended up finding it on accident because I was actually trying to look for Michelle Buteau's one of her other stand-up specials to see if it was on Netflix, and she popped up because she is like the host and narrator of The Circle. So I was like, oh, well, let me just see whatever this is about. I had a little time on my hands and I started watching it and I was like, oh, this is an interesting concept. And it is a little microcosm of what social media is. So for those of you who don't know what The Circle is a voice activated app that is used to connect people's profiles to each other. And we have contestants who are in their own little, very beautifully decorated apartments. And it was their way of having this game show during quarantine. So everyone has their own little apartment that they're living in. And we get to see them going about their lives, putting on their makeup, brushing their hair, waking up in the morning, all that type of stuff, cooking dinner. And the only way that they have connection with each other is through The Circle, which is an app. And so they text each other. They do group challenges and games. They can one-on-one message or group message each other. Some people form alliances. Some people get rid of their enemies. They so the first season of The Circle was very entertaining. And typically it's just a popularity show. You rank people in terms of your connection with them or popularity, or you rank them to get rid of the people who you think could beat you, or you rank people highly that you think would support you and never get rid of you in the game. The people who rank highest typically have the privilege of getting rid of someone else who is not ranked highest. And depending on strategy and who they like and who they have connected with, they make a decision. And for the first time in Circle history, again, this is only the second season, there was a lot of drama that unfolded almost immediately. So let's start off with talking about people. I'm gonna try to remember their names. So we have Savannah, who I think was the second person to be eliminated. I didn't really like Savannah, okay? Savannah got into a tiff with Terralisha, and things got foggy, okay? I want to say Terralisha might have thrown the first blow, but I don't think so. From what I remember, Savannah and Terralisha just off rip kind of gained popularity with everybody else first. So they were the top two influencers in the group, and they had to come together to figure out who to get rid of. And Terralisha felt threatened by Courtney because she thought Courtney was more likable and more likely to beat her. So she was thinking strategically. Savannah wanted to save Courtney because Savannah created a relationship with Courtney. So after they ended up eliminating this guy named Bryant was there for a hot second. He teaches breathing, which nobody understood. But now that I moved to the Pacific Northwest, breath work is something that makes sense a little more than some of the other people were making it seem. But they got rid of Bryant. And the problem is that when they reconvened as a group after Bryant was eliminated, somebody threw somebody under the bus. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but if you remember, or if you know, you can put it down in the comments. If I remember correctly, Savannah might have said something along, I don't know, one of them, Savannah or Terralisha, said something along the lines of, well, I wanted to keep Bryant, but my influencer partner didn't. Something along those lines. I don't know. So they get into a rift and they cause division almost immediately. This is like in one of the first elimination. And so it was a rift. They started off drama filled, and basically as a viewer, I felt like I had to choose between Savannah and Terralisha. And there was something about Savannah's demeanor, something about Savannah's, I don't know, something about Savannah I just didn't like. there was something about her that I didn't really connect with. And it might have been because when she had the opportunity to save somebody, she didn't save Chloe. Because there was like a girls chat and they were like, girl power, let's all stick together or whatever. And she didn't save the only other girl that was in the little girl chat that, you know. So Tara Alicia had like a little bit of beef with her because Savannah didn't save the girls when the girls were supposed to be sticking together. So maybe that's why I didn't like Savannah. So again, something about her, I was just like, something's not, she felt very like, you ever get a sense of those people that have like a lot to say, or but they're not going to do anything. I think that's the feeling that I got from Savannah. So I didn't really care for her. So Savannah was next to go, and then Tara Alicia got out. I think the idea was to get rid of all of the drama and just cut out the cancer and get back to like it being normal. And I think the group decided on the right thing. Tara Alicia could not recover from the slander. Tara Alicia could not recover from the nastiness and the residual yuck of her relationship with Savannah. Also, Savannah and Courtney got together. Again, I think getting rid of Tara Alicia was for the best, but I did like her. Getting rid of Savannah was for the best. I didn't care for her. Getting rid of Bryant, I don't know what he would have done. I think he was a good sacrificial lamb to go. But let's go ahead and move on to Courtney. Courtney, I feel different ways about Courtney. I like that Courtney was himself. I like that Courtney was the most strategic when it came to gameplay, but his personality was not, I didn't like his personality. I feel like he was entertaining to watch, but he wasn't likable. That's what I'll say. He wasn't likable to me. And there was something about him that felt, it was interesting to see how easily he was able to form alliances and how he was able to form friendships. And I think it's important that he was loyal and that he was himself. But he was just very shady. And it was interesting that one of the things he talked about in his introduction is how he's like he has like a YouTube entertainment talk show, but he didn't want to play that up. So he lied about his occupation and just put him being a barista. And it's like, who cares about you being an entertainment reporter or whatever your career was? I'm weirded out by that being the little fact that he wanted to lie about. But I didn't care for Courtney personality wise, but I do think that of everybody, he played the best game and he was the most strategic and he was the Joker. I think that he took advantage of being the Joker, but not well enough for them to know that he wasn't the Joker. The two people that he interacted with as the Joker knew who he was in the end, so he couldn't have been that good. Moving on, let's talk about Chloe. I don't have much to say about Chloe. I like her, and I think that her being so young and naive helped play a part in her remaining popular because it gave her a hint of authenticity. The fact that they also knew of her from another show, and apparently the fact that she had been herself on that show and continued to be herself on this show, also gave her some authenticity as well. So I liked Chloe, and if Chloe would have won, I would have been happy with that result personally. So speaking of Chloe, let's skip over to Emily. Emily was on the show for a little while. She was played by a dude whose name I cannot remember. But here's the thing. This guy is a guy he majored in like I don't even know, astronomy. He was into astrophysics, I think it was that he was. Anyways, he's a guy who thinks he's smart. A guy who thinks he's smarter than everybody else. But there's one thing that you really can't fake. And the problem with catfishes who catfish from the opposite sex, those are the easiest ones to catch. And unfortunately for Emily, there was a makeup challenge. And here's the thing about the producers. One of the things that's interesting about the show, and I can't tell if I like it about the show or not, is that this is the second season of the show, and the producers are clearly experimenting with these people as if they are ants in an ant farm. And when you think about a kid who has an ant farm, maybe he shakes the ant farm up. Maybe he adds a piece of candy into the ant farm. Maybe he pours water into the ant farm. He's just experimenting with these people that they have control over in this moment, right? So the producers have this ant farm called the Circle, and it's filled with 10 to 15 people, and they're just doing whatever they want. And so they created a challenge where they had to do a mannequin. And because this guy who was playing Emily has no real knowledge about makeup, he uses blush or something, some type of powder makeup to make up a mannequin. And his mannequin turns out horrible. And it starts to show that he does not have the knowledge that a 21-year-old girl would have. And that's the problem with thinking that you're so smart that you could fool people into being the opposite sex. And with that being said, let's move on to Trevor, who ends up winning the circle. We have Delisa. I actually remember her name. Delisa is playing Trevor, who is a Black single father, and she's using her husband's pictures. Very attractive Black man. They have a pretty daughter together. And again, I feel like there were hints that people had that Trevor was not a man. People even said that there were hints of feminine energy. And the difference between the way the guy playing Emily and Delisa, who was playing Trevor, the difference between them is that Delisa used her knowledge of women to figure out what a woman wanted to hear about Trevor. And that's why she won the game. While her text messages and things for whatever reason, I feel like Trevor interacted the least with people on the show. And I was actually pretty shocked that Trevor won. I thought that Courtney or Chloe was going to win. And if not River, but it was shocking to me that Trevor won, because in my experience, when people play the middle of the road, very often they are middle of the road. Like, for instance, last season on The Circle, there was a Hispanic guy named Chris who was very neutral, didn't really have a lot of opinions on things. People liked him and he was funny, but he didn't make any alliances and he didn't make any enemies as well. And he ended up being like middle of the road. And I felt like that's kind of the position that Trevor played. He was flirty with one girl. He was more emotional with the other players. And I feel like and the only time Trevor really got, took a stance on someone's side was when she tried to collude with Mitch to get Courtney thrown out of the game, Courtney or River. And maybe that's what gave her the edge, is that at the end of the day, she was able to stir up some type of doubt about River or Courtney. So yeah, I'm shocked that she won. I thought that she played a pretty middle of the road game. Overall, I don't like, just as a person who wants people who are being genuine to win, I don't really care for the fact that a catfish won the game. And I'm still like trying to dissect why Trevor won. It almost doesn't make sense to me why Trevor won. And I think it just comes down to people rating, in that final rating, in a way where they felt like Trevor was so innocuous that people could put him higher in the rating without it coming back to them. Maybe everybody assumed that Trevor was going to be rated a little lower, and so they put him up higher to balance things out. And it ended up backfiring. So kind of shocked by it. I don't care for the fact that she won, but I think it's great that she's going to have, money for her family and for her daughter. I think that's the good part of it. But, what do you all think? Because when I think about my moral code and everything, for the most part, I try to live my life with integrity and honesty. And if I win $100,000, how much money does your morality cost? Pretending to be somebody else is obviously lying, right? So she won the money, but she lied the whole time to get it. Is her victory discounted? What do you think? Put it down below in the comments, whatever. Moving on, let's get off of Trevor. Trevor won, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that they deserve to win. I would have preferred Chloe to win. And even though I don't like Courtney and I don't think he's likable, he was himself. So I think he could have won as well. So moving on. We have Mitch, who is the brother of one of the contestants from the previous circle. Don't have a lot to say about him. I think he was authentic. I think he was himself. I think that he came alive when he was colluding with Trevor. That's when he became the most interesting to me. But for the most part, he was just kind of there. Next, we have Kat. Kat, to me, was a little unlikable. A little bit. When she came into the circle, I feel like she said something along the lines of like, I'm here to stir the pot or whatever, and she just wasn't very good at it. I don't think that her strategy was up to par. I think that she didn't figure out when to stop pressing an issue or know about the alliance between Chloe, Courtney, and River. I think that she weaseled herself out of $100,000 by pressing a little too hard about Chloe not being the person that one of the eliminated contestants went to visit. So I don't think Kat played a smart game, and there was something about her that just wasn't that likable to me. So moving on, let's talk about John. John was played by the guy who okay, wait, let's talk about Lance first. So somebody came into the circle claiming to be Lance Bass from NSYNC. It's gonna be May. But it turned out to be his personal assistant, whose real name was Lisa. Lisa did a bad job of being a catfish. Again, when you have someone who's pretending to be a person who's the opposite gender, those are the easiest to find out. So she did a very bad job and got voted off kind of at the same time that the person who was playing Emily got voted off. But I think it was a huge twist to see that they were offered a second chance and that they were going to be a tandem catfish. And I thought it was a huge twist and a big deal for a number of reasons. So number one, we've never seen anything like that before on the show. Nobody has ever had a second chance or second opportunity. So I'm curious about what the point of that was. Was it just for shock value? Because I was shocked. Okay. Anyways, also offering them a second chance and making them be catfishes. So this particular cohort of the circle in this season had a history of voting off people who were portraying who they actually were. They did a bad job of getting rid of catfishes. And in the final, when it came down to the technically 6 finalists, most of them were actually catfish. So a catfish ended up winning. So this particular cohort was very bad at detecting who catfish were. But in offering them a second opportunity, I think that they assumed that because these people were already playing catfishes, that they could come back and be catfishes. And that's the thing that kind of interested me. Like, if they had a second opportunity to do it over again, would they just be themselves? And by saying we're going to offer you a second chance and we're going to ask you if you want to be another catfish, it would have been interesting to see if they had a little bit more choice. Am I making sense? What I'm trying to say is, instead of doing a tandem catfish, they could have brought one of them back under the conditions that they were themselves. I think that would have been just as interesting, if not more interesting, to have somebody who's been playing the game from the beginning as a catfish, but have them come back to be themselves. I think that would have been just as interesting. But again, this is one of the ant farm situations, right? This is just the person who owns the ant farm, also known as the producers of the circle, adding a second queen to an ant colony. And it's like, this ain't gonna work. So anyway, it was weird. There was the only 2-bedroom circle apartment. Another thing that I thought was weird is that the guy who was playing Emily, I'm mad I can't remember his name, but he took the lead. It was almost like he did most of the work himself. And maybe one or two times Lisa kind of helped him figure out where to go. And another problem that I have with the show is that it almost offers no opportunity for a new person to actually win. Like a person who is already, when you think about the last season, the finalists, when you think about this season, the finalists, it's extremely rare and almost impossible for somebody who comes in the game later to form bonds with the people that are already there. It's hard for them to play catch up after all of the stuff that has happened. They don't have as much time to form bonds. And I think that having people come in later is just cannon fodder almost. I think you would be hard pressed to find a subsequent season where there's going to be people who came in at the end being a big part or the majority of the finalists. I just don't think it's going to work that way. Because the longer you're there, the longer time you have to form alliances, build relationships with people, and remove people that you don't want to be there. So, I don't know if there's really anything that they can do about it. If they start the circle bigger and just have it whittled down to the top 5, that might be something, but we'll have to see. I don't know. Oh, y'all, when Savannah and Tara Alicia were at the end, I was just annoyed. I think that Savannah was actually being diplomatic. And even though I didn't care for her too much, she was being diplomatic in the end and saying, we just got some stuff misconstrued, because it's easy to get stuff misconstrued when it's via text message. You don't see body language. You don't hear tone. So I think Savannah was being diplomatic. And then Tara Alicia was just kind of bringing up the past and playing the victim. And that was the first time I was like, okay, Tara Alicia, just shut up. I didn't like how it was at the end. And then Savannah was, I don't like when people use terms of endearment in like a nasty way. Don't hate the player, hate the game, honey. And it's like, Savannah, you got voted off before Tara Alicia. You lost. What are you talking about? Anyways, moving on. Did I get everybody? River. Y'all, I do not like River. Or Lee, who is the person who was playing River. There was something about watching him. Something about him lying. Something about him pretending to be young. Something about him was I just did not like him. And that being said, I didn't like Courtney or River, really. I like that Courtney, River, and Lance formed what I think was for the most part, an effective alliance. Unfortunately, none of them won. So how effective are alliances? But what I will say is that the guy playing River, I just could not stand him. There was something yucky about it, like watching him. And I'm not saying, I feel like under other circumstances, he would be likable. But listening to him trying to figure out who is a catfish and talking about who needs to go. And I don't know. It just wasn't becoming. I don't know what the deal was. Because I feel like last time on my previous review, I might have said something like, it'll be interesting to see if they bring on older contestants. And I think that that's fine, right? Like John was supposed to be an older contestant. Lee, it was actually an older person as well. And there were moments where Lee didn't play that part. And I think one of the things about being there so long is that people have this trust that you are who you say you are, because we have a relationship and we've been talking to each other for a while, and just the catfish blinders come on or whatever. So it's very hard to explain why I didn't like the guy who was playing River. But the part where they had to tell the story about what they would do with the money, I think probably disgusted me the most. And he made up some story, I can't remember what it was, but he was saying, I'm lying, but I just want to buy a pool for my house. And it's like, ew. Like, you are an adult. What are you doing? Like, I understand you want to win, but he was the person who, he was so conscious about lying. And I mean, as a catfish, you have to be, right? But just something about the way he did it just seemed more yucky than the other catfish to me. So I didn't really like River. I didn't care for River. So yeah, whatever. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a good show. I'm curious about what they're gonna do on the next season. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I shared the show with my sister and a friend, a college friend of mine, and we've been doing some text messaging back and forth about it. So I've gotten some other people into it. I can't wait for the next season, and it's very interesting. You should watch it. It's on Netflix. If you got Netflix, you got access. So go ahead and check it out. Thanks for watching. Peace out, home slices. I forgot one thing. Let's talk about how no one is upset about the catfish. I understand that unlike last season, it seemed like there was a break between the final dinner when all the finalists met each other and the final taping of them finding out who the winner was. For whatever reason, I feel like there might have been a break in between there. This time, they did a whirlwind, basically. So the finalists wake up in the morning, they have breakfast, they do their final rankings, then they get ready to meet each other at a dinner. And then right after the dinner, in the same clothes that they were at the dinner, they find out who the winner is. So this is a one-day whirlwind. And at this finalist situation, out of the 6 finalists that are there, 4 of them are catfish. And nobody is mad. Like, even Chloe is feeling, you can tell she was disappointed a little bit, but not mad. Like, how could you lie to me? How could you make me like you knowing that you couldn't like me back? I'm trying to like justify, like, this is a whirlwind of emotions. Everything's going very fast on this particular day of the circle. And even in the previous episode of the circle, when they all sit down at dinner and they find out who's the catfish and who's not, it's hard. I don't understand why nobody's upset. And I'm like, are they all just so shocked in the moment that they don't have time to process or whatever? I just think it's weird. And I don't want to say fake, but it's very odd that nobody's pissed off that the person that is my best friend in the circle is a 50-year-old, 55-year-old white man who doesn't care about what he told me that he was going to spend the money on. And he just wants to put a pool in his backyard or whatever. Like, and granted, these people haven't seen the footage that's behind the scenes at the time that this was taped or anything like that. So, but just finding out somebody that you had a connection with, that you talked to, was pretending to be somebody that they weren't. Or is it the fact that it's a game and it's like all's fair in the circle? Okay, like, you have the opportunity to be yourself. You have the opportunity to be somebody else if you think that will improve your chances. And if you thought that you improve your chances by being somebody else, you're just playing the game and doing it to the best of your ability. So all's well that ends well. Maybe that's it. But yeah, that's it. I just wanted to come back and say that. That's just something I feel like nobody's really been mad about the catfish situation, but whatever. I think maybe Sam might have expressed something at the previous finale in season 1. All right, y'all, as I was editing the video, another thought came to my mind, and this is going to be the final piece of what I talk about regarding The Circle season 2. The Joker was a waste of time. In the beginning of the show, or towards the beginning, when they introduced the Joker, for whatever reason, I assumed that different people throughout the show would get to be the Joker. Or this was going to be a recurring role. And to have the Joker show up one time and talk to 2 people and stir up just a little tiny bit of drama, really, I feel like it was a waste. And unless you're going to use the Joker as the big Joker, don't use it at all, okay? I just thought that they took an element of the game that sounded fun, that sounded cool, that sounded like it was going to stir up a lot of drama, and that they didn't really use it to its full potential. So if they bring the Joker situation back, that they need to use it more frequently, they need to use it better than they did in this time. Just to have it be this kind of one-off was weird, I thought. So yeah. But yeah, that's all I got, y'all. I really enjoyed it, and you should watch it. Peace out.